Okay, cool. Well, I'm super excited. I am here with Jessica, who has a lifestyle design coaching business, and she's recently had some success. And so I decided to hop on a quick call with her to chat about that. So, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. Is it okay if I call you Jess?
Mhm.
We have been working together one-on-one, so I would love to, let's talk about that first. So tell me a little bit about what was it that made you decide to reach out to me and actually get started with a private coaching program?
Yeah, so I had a pretty clear vision of what I wanted to do. And so I had been writing about financial independence and lifestyle design for a couple of years and felt like I had the skills and I had the background in the experiences to be able to provide transformational experiences for people that was more than just reading a blog post or listening to a podcast interview, or sending an email, right? And so I had been toying with the idea for a good 6 months before reaching out and feeling like, oh yeah, this will totally be a thing that I can do. And then when I got down to it and was ready to say, okay, I'm going to give it a try, I was so scared to
Yeah.
do it. I every single step, I had no idea where to start. Every single step felt scary. I was saying, should I do this or this slightly different thing or this slightly different thing? Which is clearly a sign that there's, sort of something going on and I needed some more support.
Yeah.
And so reached out to you,
Mhm.
to get some insight. And when you told me about the Create and Fill, your coaching program, which went through all of the basics of everything from how to create and communicate about your offer to how do you actually do the marketing and sales process and actually, signing people up and all of those things.
Mhm.
I was like, I need to do this because this will tell me all of the steps, so I don't need to agonize over every small tiny detail, and
Yeah.
I can focus on the important things. And so yeah, so I knew that I wanted, so for me it was really helpful to do the course with the one-on-one coaching.
Mhm.
I think the reason for that is that, sure, I could have learned a lot from the sort of course, but for me, right, I sort of absorbed all of that and figured out how to apply it.
Mhm.
And then when I got into actually launching the program, all of these new challenges came up,
Yeah.
right? And there's things that you'll never realize will be a challenge until you actually face it.
Mhm.
And so having that one-on-one support to be able to connect with you, to be able to reach out on Voxer or set up a call to say
Mhm.
hey, I'm experiencing this thing. Let's talk about how I work through it, was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the biggest things with us working together because you are, from what I've observed, you're the type of person where, you see what you have to do, you do it. Like you took really good notes. I feel like when you came to the meetings with your notes, I was like, oh, this is great. Like she's already got her notes, like she knows what she wants to cover. And it was based on what you were doing through the program. But where I felt like, where I really was able to support and give you help was as you started launching, like the questions of, is this supposed to happen? Or, what would you do in this instance? So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because you did launch your program and right away you did fill it up. So I would love to talk a little bit about what was your thought process through your launch, and what was it that helped things click for you where you did actually start getting clients into it?
I think when I first started, I had this perspective that there was a right way of doing something. And I wanted to know the right way to do it that was
Mm-hmm.
going to work. Right. And so there were, and there's certainly some things that there's a way that you recommended, you should try it this
Mm-hmm.
way. And then there were many things that I would come to you and you would say, well, what feels good to you?
Yeah.
Right. And to me, I think that was the most important question, to realize there isn't one right way of doing
Mm-hmm.
this. and to like run a coaching business that's really sort of lifestyle based, that's really based around like who I am as a person and what I know and have learned, really needs to be like tailored and specific to who I am. And so that question now is like a guide whenever I'm like, what should I do next?
Yeah.
Like that is like what feels right to me, right? When I'm thinking about pricing a new program, or when I'm thinking about a structure to something, or even like in a simple conversation, I can say like, what feels right to me in this situation? And have learned that I can trust myself, and I can trust my gut on a lot of those things.
Do you feel like you gained a lot of confidence through that process? Yeah. It's completely different. I love chat. Like, I love when you message me on Vox and you're like, yeah, I just did this and I'm going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, she gets it. It's so different from when we first started. So with that said, so tell us about your actual launch. So you were a little bit nervous, and you were going through the process of, setting up the calls and maybe, doing some messenger stuff, and you actually booked. Well, tell us what happened with your very first launch.
So I actually just finished my second launch. So I would also love to talk about like my first launch and how it was different from my second launch too.
Yeah, sure.
So the first launch was hard. It felt like it was it was a challenge because everything was new, and I was like, what's supposed to happen here, and what do I do here? And and I switched in the middle to doing like just messenger selling to messenger leading to phone, which I realized I liked to do better and helped me connect with the people more. And so there was a lot of like learning of just like what's my style. And what do I want to do during that process? And ultimately, right, that first launch felt hard, but I did it. I filled up the group and launched a group coaching program with 4 people in it in May. And that program just ended. And then I actually had 3 people who'd previously done programs, including 2 people in this group, actually decide they wanted to continue and do another group program. And so I like designed something specifically for what they felt like they needed.
Oh, cool.
And then I launched my signature program, so Design a Life You Love, again. And, I was thinking like, okay, it might be a little bit hard. It felt hard last time. I did all of the strategies of the launch, like the content blitz and leading people toward the webinar and, wondering if I should schedule 2, but I was like, I'll just schedule 1. My goal is to have all the spots filled within the first week. And after 3 days, all the spots were full. And I still had like 2 calls scheduled of people who had reached out to me earlier in the week and ended up booking one of those clients, pre-enrolling her for January.
Oh, good. Okay. So you, you were like, we're full, but you can get in on the next bus.
Yeah. And she did it. She was like, great. January is a great time frame for me anyway.
Perfect.
And so, so it felt like, so there were a couple differences, right? Like one is that I feel like I have learned a couple of key things. I think one of them is, right, this thing about trusting myself. I think the second one is learning that like, I don't need to chase clients. I have a transformational program. And if I put the information out there, the right people will come to me. And if they're not the right person, I'm going to tell them so and refer them to other resources, right? And so that was something that felt valuable too, is having this like abundance mindset of saying like, okay, if this person isn't the right person, then I'm going to say no to them because someone else who is right is going to come along. And if I say yes to someone who isn't right, it doesn't give that person who is right the chance to be a part of it. So there's that piece of it. And then, I think those are the sort of key differences.
Yeah, and you mentioned one thing that I want to touch on really quick before we wrap up, which is you talked about the idea of abundance. And so I'm known for, when clients come to me, like I'm known for helping them double their rates. And so I want to talk a little bit about pricing, because I know with you and I, like I looked at your rates and I was like, okay, we got to change these. And you were unsure. Yep. And now you're even higher than there. So I would love to talk about that, and like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So the first thing that I was struggling with was to say, like, should I even charge at all? Right. And I was like, I have such a great life. Should I just be like providing all of this coaching for free? And you were like, no, you absolutely cannot provide this coaching for free. And you're like, that's a privilege mindset coming out. Like if you use your privilege in that way, you're taking away someone else's like opportunity to be able to declare for themselves that they want to make a big change in their life. And so that was really impactful for me to think about, okay, yeah, that's totally true, because people who do invest, a significant amount of money are way more likely to be committed. And I saw that firsthand in my coaching program, in that people, invested a significant sum of their money to be in the program. And I think we had 8 meetings and we had one person miss one meeting one time. Right. Yeah. So of like the entire 4 months of the program, people were extremely committed and did like all of the activities and worked through everything. Right. So I think there's that piece of it, is that there's this commitment, right? And people are choosing to invest in themselves. And that was a real eye opener for me. And so I think, when I originally started, I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll charge like $100 a session or something like that. And then, you convinced me that like, no, you should charge people more than that, because it's an investment in themselves, and they're like declaring that they want to make this change in their life. And then, the second thing was thinking about like, what's truly the value of what they're getting out of it. Right. And so if they're going to be like completely figuring out ways that they want to transform their lives, like that's right. Like that's valuable. Worth more than $800. Right. And so, so I definitely, increased, more than doubled the price from what I had been originally thinking, and then have increased the price again since there, and think I can continue to bump that price up because people are paying it.
Yep. And they're still enrolling and they're getting the value. And I think when we first talked about the rates, I was like, okay, this can be a good starter rate, and then we can go up from there. And I'm very proud of you. You're still listening. So that's all I want clients to do, is just listen, just do what I ask. So good stuff. So I would love to hear, just really quickly, where do you feel like you can go from now, from here? Like, what does the future look like for you as far as your coaching program, and what's your vision for your business?
Yeah, so it's really exciting because I feel like I'm now able to like think a lot bigger about it. I think previously I was like, oh, well, it'll just be something I do on the side and it'll be fun and it'll generate me income, and like maybe I can semi-retire someday. And now I'm seeing like, in the first 6 months of the business, like I generated more than $20,000, right? Which is like more than I thought that I would generate. And that's only having launched 3 groups.
Yeah.
Right.
And small ones at that, right?
Yeah.
4 people in a group. Yeah.
Yeah. And so seeing that and seeing how quickly I was able to fill a group in this past launch, it like got me thinking like, oh, do I feel like I have the capacity right now to launch two new groups? Yeah. And ultimately decided like, no, I'll do that in January. I'm not quite ready. But I definitely see the possibility of being able to like have this be my main gig, probably within the next year,
couple months,
and being able to quit my part-time job and to do this fully.
Yay. Well, I'm super excited. It's like I said, it's been amazing to see your journey and to see your growth since we first started. Like I said, I 100%, that's one of my earbuds, 100% enjoy working with you. And I appreciate you taking the time and I look forward to your continued success.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Jess.